This is the Dr. Katherine Albrecht Show.
Raise a signal flag on a bare hilltop. Call up an army against Babylon. Raise a signal flag on a bare hilltop. Call up an army against Babylon. Wave your hand to encourage them. Wave your hand to encourage them. As they march into the palaces of the high and mighty. I, the Lord, have dedicated these soldiers for this task. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. And they will rejoice when I am exalted.
Hello, good afternoon. Katherine Albrecht here. I am going to be racing out right at the end of the show at 5 to run up to the St. Clair County Board of Commissioners meeting, because tonight is going to be the very important vote on who gets appointed to the Community Mental Health Board. And I am praying, prayerfully, I would say fingers crossed, but I think it's more prayer, that we get the correct composition to the board to move forward with a lot of the academic research that I have been discussing on this show and put together in a video, and have been researching for the last couple of months, actually, since I found out about it, which is the research first shared with us by Dr. Harold Koenig, who was a guest on on my program a number of months back. That is the research showing that religion and spirituality, faith-based programs are not only acceptable once again, but they're welcome in being strongly encouraged by people at the highest levels of academia and former directors of the Department of Health and Human Services, policymakers, people in really prominent positions of research and the latest intellectual thought. So if you are still laboring under the false belief that it is not okay to be religious, then I encourage you to get with the program, read the research, see what's going on out there, and we, as we move forward with the realization that the last 100 years under Sigmund Freud, B.F. Skinner, and all of the behaviorists and the people who were antagonistic towards religion has led to a horrible deterioration of social values in our country and around the world. So it's exciting, and I'm hoping tonight that at the meeting, we have as many people in St. Clair County as possible turn out to speak on behalf of the appointment of Steve Fair to the commissioners, the Community Mental Health Board. So that's where I will be going. So I'm going to be lickety-split out of here. Sometimes I barely make it on time, but this time I'm literally racing out the door the second the show is over. Now, I want to bring you up to date on a couple interesting things on today's show. And let me bring you over to, if you're on YouTube, this is a $1.5 billion copyright settlement with AI. This is with the AI company that we've been talking about on the program the last couple of days or last couple of weeks, Anthropic. This is the one headed up by Dario Amodei. He is, of all the people in the AI space, I would have to say Anthropic and its product Claude and its head, Dario Amodei, are, I would say, the most ethical of a very unethical industry. He is doing his level best to try, I think he's misguided, but to try to move AI forward in a way that causes goodness for humanity rather than harm. And that has met with some opposition. I talked a couple days ago about the Anthropic terms policy terms of service that say that you cannot use Anthropic for mass public surveillance. You cannot use, or Claude, the Anthropic systems, Claude is the name of their AI. You can't use it for autonomous weapons systems. That means like drones that can kill people without being controlled by a human being, that make their own decisions as to who to kill and how and target people and such. That is a horrible use of AI, and one of the scary future uses of AI, that if we put it in charge of weapon systems, if we put it in charge of the button for the nuke, for example, if we put it in charge of chemical weapons, or who knows what, I don't know, drones and missiles and bombs and other dangerous things that could kill people, that artificial intelligence is probably not the entity that I want to have be in charge of that. I'm concerned about a lot of people in positions of power being in charge of that amount of fatal military power, but I think of all the entities I wouldn't want to have control of it, it's AI. And so Anthropic, as I mentioned on the program before, is in a fight right now with the Trump administration that has said that because they will not allow the military to use Claude and Anthropic systems for autonomous weapons and for mass public surveillance, that they are a national security threat, that they are unpatriotic because of not allowing that. Well, let me tell you that this company is not only under fire by the federal government, who is telling all of the military suppliers to not use Anthropic's systems, but I got a letter in the mail a couple of days ago. It was on last Friday. I got a letter from these guys. I'll bring you here. All right, Sussman Godfrey. This is the law firm that has sued Anthropic for doing the thing that we know AI does, which is to obtain the copyrighted information from books, from websites, from you name it, and they've just sort of scarfed it all up. Now, Anthropic is not the only one to have done this. Other companies have done this as well. In fact, every AI company has done this, because the way they train these AI models is by feeding them all of the world's information. And there is a pirate website out there called LibGen. What is their official name? Library Genesis, LibGen, that has copied pretty much every book in print, ones who have had their copyright expire. So I don't know, all the books by Charles Dickens, or turn of the century writers, writings by I don't know, Thomas Edison, that level of magazines where he published articles and such, all the way up through to today. So when new books come out, when they're published and they make their way to the bookstore, people scan them. They take the books apart. It does destroy the book. They take the books apart, they cut off the spine, they feed them through a high-speed image maker thing, make pictures of it, and then get a PDF copy, an EPUB, which is the thing I think you read on Kindle, in various different formats, and then they upload these things into LibGen. So as a result, all of the published books, and I won't say all, but a lot, I would say most of the books published out there are available through a copyright violation through LibGen. Well, that is not just Anthropic, but it is it's Google with their Gemini product. It's Grok, the XAI, Elon Musk's AI Grok. It is OpenAI's ChatGPT. Pretty much all of these AI companies have, among the many things they scarf up, have scarfed up this LibGen library of copyrighted material that has been placed on there through a copyright violation or through piracy. And this particular, the mail that I got, the letter that I got, and Liz, my co-author from Spy Chips, got a copy too, was to tell us that among the 500,000 published copyrighted books that were found in Anthropic's possession for its AI, that Spy Chips, the book that Liz McIntyre and I published way back in 2005 about RFID, radio frequency identification, that was included among them. And they just got a huge $1.5 billion settlement from Anthropic. And that money, a big portion of it is, of course, going to the law firm that did the class action lawsuit. But because it's a class action, it means every member of the class, which includes yours truly, who had their copyright violated by Anthropic, is entitled to a portion of this $1.5 billion judgment. And in the case of spy chips, I think, we're talking probably a couple grand. I thought it would be like $1.23, $1.15 or something, but it turns out that they will be distributed among those 500,000 copyright holders, but only to those who actually file a claim by March 30th, which is coming up in about 10 days. So that is something I just wanted to make you aware of, that these copyright violations. Now, this is Anthropic. Anthropic's not the only one to do it, and I'm sure that there will be other lawsuits against the other companies that have done this as well. But it's kind of an interesting topic. So we'll be talking more about copyright and piracy when we come back. Stay tuned.
Why are most email programs free? Companies use them as bait to lure people into their system so they can scan their data and sell them to advertisers. It's like a hotel giving out free rooms so they can film people sleeping and then sell the video. You'd never agree to that. StartMail restores your privacy. No one but you sees your sensitive data, and it costs less than a postage stamp a week. StartMail.com. It's email you can trust. Your email is your business, but if it's spied on, hacked, or intercepted, it can fall into the wrong hands. The solution is encryption, a high-tech way to scramble your data so no one can read it. For years, only the technical elite could use this powerful tool until StartMail came along. StartMail not only lets you encrypt the email you send, it encrypts your entire account. Encryption. It's just one more way StartMail.com keeps you safe.
Hi, this is Joe.
You will experience God's peace, the peace of God. Then you will experience God's peace, the peace of God, which exceeds anything we can understand, anything we can understand, which exceeds anything we can understand, anything we can understand. I am the Lord who opened the way through the waters, making a dry path through the sea. I am the Lord who opened the way through the waters, making a dry path through the sea.
Yeah, we need a path through the sea, don't we? All right, Katherine Albrecht here. I'm just going to update you on this, and here's what it says. Agreement would result in first major payout to creators challenging AI exploitation of their work, believed the largest recovery ever in a U.S. copyright case. Kind of a big deal. Sussman Godfrey is the name of the law firm. They have announced the terms of a landmark settlement requiring Anthropic to pay $1.5 billion to rights holders whose books were downloaded by Anthropic from the notorious pirated databases LibGen, or Library Genesis, and the Pirate Library Mirror, or PLIMI, P-I-L-I-M-I, and who otherwise qualify as members of the LibGen and PLIMI, PLIMI pirated books class. Now that includes me, yours truly. Our book, Spy Chips, was published by Thomas Nelson Publishers, who at the time was the largest publishers of books in the world because they publish Bibles. and has since been acquired or transferred or merged with, I'm not sure which of the above, but with Random House. So they are the, together with us, we are both copyright holders, and they have not yet filed a claim for Spy Chips. So Liz McIntyre, my co-author of Spy Chips, and I may be the ones to cash in on this particular windfall. It means, though, that if you go to Anthropic, and the same is also true for ChatGPT and Gemini and all the other ones, that if you go there and you ask it questions about our book, Spy Chips, it knows every single word of every chapter, perhaps even better than Liz and I do at this point, and it will be able to tell you what was on page 32, or it will be able to tell you all of the facts and the details and the footnotes and everything else that was in that book. The otherwise, okay, so this is the pirated book class of victims, essentially, certified by U.S. District Judge William Alsop. Anthropic will pay, get this, approximately $3,000 per class work. So Spy Chips, I guess that would be $3,000. We haven't really seen much income from that book in recent years, so it would be, I guess, something. And it looks like this is going to be going forward now that this has been a successful challenge against Anthropic. $1.5 billion. We're probably going to see similar lawsuits filed against the other companies. And it's not just books. It's if you go onto one of these artificial intelligence LLMs and you type in, LLM, by the way, large language models, and you type in, or chatbots as they're commonly known, and you type in that you would like to see a Minnie Mouse on a surfboard with blonde hair, then the artificial intelligence, the chatbot, will, if it is one of the ones that does images, it will give you an image of Minnie Mouse on a surfboard with blonde hair. How in the world do they know what Minnie Mouse looks like? Well, they know what Minnie Mouse looks like because they violated Disney's copyright as well in scarfing up images of Minnie Mouse. Now, that one may be out of the public domain, or maybe in the public domain because it's old enough, but you could do the same thing with Sonic the Hedgehog. You could do the same thing with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and the characters in there. You could do the same thing with essentially any you could do Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator. Well, all of that is copyrighted. All of that material, the movies, the books, the TV shows, the cartoons, the, you name it, the, I don't know, Pepsi Cola can, all of that is copyrighted, and you cannot just go snagging it. However, millions of people, tens of millions of people around the world, are able to generate images based on that copyrighted information, including Spy Chips. I guess you could have Minnie Mouse reading a chapter of, or a page of our book. You probably do that, or have Arnold Schwarzenegger do that in Terminator style. It's all copyrighted. It seems, because we are so accustomed to going online and typing into a search engine, Google, Startpage, DuckDuckGo, whatever you use as your search engine, we're accustomed to being able to go in there and say, I want an image of X, and it'll pop up. But we cannot use that commercially because it is copyrighted. And the line has really gotten very blurred about what you can do with copyrighted information. You're allowed to use copyrighted information if you're using it for commentary, political commentary or criticism. If you are doing various editorial things with it, then you can. I could put up the, I don't know, Pepsi Cola can, or I could put up Timothy Chalamet with his recent movie that he's in, if I were going to be commenting on it. But I would not be able to, for example, make a greeting card, and if I were Hallmark, I could not put, I don't know, Kylie Jenner's picture on the front of my Hallmark greeting card and have her saying certain things, because I would have to pay her for the right to use her image. So all of that stuff is copyrighted. All right, let me read on about this. It's like Anthropic can't catch a break, let me just say, because out of all of the AI companies that deserve to be sued, they all deserve to be sued, all of them, every last one of them. I think that copyright holders were hoping that somehow we could put the cat back in the bag and we could undo these companies' access to the copyrighted materials. But this is probably the next best thing, which is to say, all right, you have it. There's nothing we can really do about it. We're not going to make you undo it, because you'd have to rewrite the entire training set for these models, but you need to pay. And so Anthropic now is facing, and I need to give you an update, they're actually suing the federal government on that whole military supply chain. What are they posed as? A supply chain threat to U.S. Security. Anyway, they're suing the federal government. They're absolutely going to win, because there's no way that you can put Anthropic, simply because they would not allow autonomous weapons and mass surveillance. They don't pose a threat to national security in the same way that, say, Chinese, as I talked about on a previous show, the Chinese suppliers who have actually put in kill switches into important infrastructure that runs our power grid, for example, that actually is a real security threat, because if you install your local power grid and you have a switch that the Chinese can shut off by simply sending out a radio signal, then that is a pretty serious national security threat. Anthropic, not so much. So they're going to win this case, but at what cost? And this is the kind of gets you into the whole issue of these lawsuits and these directives that the government and this particular administration has been putting out. They may not win, but the amount of hardship that they put companies through is enough to be a warning to others not to do the same thing. Anthropic, here we go. Believed to be the largest publicly reported recovery in the history of U.S. copyright litigation, the massive $1.5 billion payout sends a powerful message of accountability to AI developers who torrented. Now, torrent means you're just downloading tons of stuff through a torrent. Copyrighted works from illegal pirated websites to train AI models. Anthropic's acquisition and use of books from these websites, illegal websites that have been repeatedly shut down by law enforcement and the courts, was made public for the first time as a result of this action. The settlement gives hope to creators of every kind, including the writers, musicians, artists, journalists, and others seeking to enforce creators' rights in dozens of other pending cases. So this is setting a precedent for the other companies as well. Co-lead plaintiffs counsel Justin Nelson of Sussman Godfrey, that's the law firm, said, quote, "This landmark settlement far surpasses any other known copyright recovery. It is the first of its kind in the AI era and will provide meaningful compensation for each class work, and sets a precedent requiring AI companies to pay copyright owners. The settlement sends a powerful message." All right. So do you think this really is going to set a precedent that they need to pay copyright owners? I don't think so. What it's going to do, because nobody's going to say, I mean, what is the phrase? Better to ask forgiveness than permission. Nobody's going to say, hey, we want to download your entire database, and so here's some money. They're just going to do it, and they're going to wait until somebody either does or doesn't sue them for doing it. And at that point, then the money starts flowing, but they're going to get away with a whole lot. Piracy harms those who devote their lives to writing and publishing works that benefit us all. This is we could do a whole show on LibGen and Anna's Archive, which is one of the LibGen access points. The fact that all those books are up there has been incredibly helpful to me in writing my own research, because I can find Scientific American from 1905. I can find the original writings of Thomas Edison in those publications. I can find books that were published back in the 1800s that I couldn't really find elsewhere. There are other places you can find them, but I have actually used this database. I'm familiar with it. I know how it works. If I were to want to get my hands on a more recent book that was still under copyright, I might even take a quick peek and see if I like it, and then I would actually order it and pay money for it. So it's interesting. If you wanted to see Spy Chips, you can actually go to LibGen or to Anna's Archive or to LimiP. I don't even know what it's called here. Pilimi, Pirate Library Mirror. You could actually go there and you could download a copy of Liz's and my book, Spy Chips, or the Christian version, The Spy Chips Threat. There are about a dozen different copies up there in different formats, in different styles, uploaded by different people, and it is there. Now, I have to say, at this point, that book came out in 2005, so it's over 20 years old. So if you want to grab a copy of it there, go for it. Go ahead. encourage you to do it. I would like to get the book read. I would like the information in it to get out to people, and it's a great book. It's entertaining, it's funny, it's got Elvis Presley and whipped cream and talking plants and all kinds of cool stuff in it, and that was all Liz's contribution. And my contribution was the, I don't know, like 300 footnotes in that book, because I learned through getting my doctorate that you never say a single controversial thing without attributing your source with a footnote. So that's all in there. I encourage you to check it out. But yeah, it's just an interesting situation. So I will keep you posted on what happens with that. Liz has, she's got a legal background, so she's going to be the person filling out all the paperwork and making sure that we submit our claims. She's actually, I guess, part of the settlement. You can even talk to the lawyers at Sussman Godfrey. So she was actually on the phone yesterday talking to an attorney from Sussman Godfrey about this settlement. Interesting stuff. So I'll let you know. I may be holding a check for $1,500 at some point, and multiply that by all the AIs. Yeah, it could be a nice windfall. All right, I'm Katherine Albrecht. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Is your email box overrun with spam? With a StartMail account, you'll never have to give your real email address to a stranger again. Online shopping, newsletter subscriptions, getting that 30% off coupon, they all need your email address. But with StartMail, you can invent new addresses or aliases linked to your inbox behind the scenes and give those out to people while keeping your real address hidden. It's just one more protection from StartMail.com.
Red alert, Yahoo users. You've fallen in a trap that could ruin your life if you keep using Yahoo.
You consent to sharing all data in your email account with our AI providers, and you grant us a perpetual license to use, display, publish, and publicly distribute your content in any media known now or in the future, and to let other users access and distribute it as well.
Yikes! It's time to switch to StartMail, the only email that's AI-free and private by design. StartMail.com. Use promo code JD.
Look at the birds. Look at the birds. I tell you not to worry about everyday life. I tell you not to worry about everyday life. Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? Look at the birds. Look at the birds. Look at the birds. Look at the birds. And if God cares so wonderfully for wildflowers, He will certainly care for you. And if God cares so wonderfully for wildflowers, He will certainly care for you. I, the Lord, made you, and I will not forget you. I have swept away your sins like a cloud. I, the Lord, made you, and I will not forget you. I have swept away your sins like a cloud. mountains like a cloud.
Hey, I'm back.
I'm scared of your offenses.
All right. So, if anybody within the sound of my voice is in St. Clair County, Michigan, and you would consider showing up tonight to the Board of Commissioners meeting, you can look online under St. Clair County Board of Commissioners. You'll see a map there and an address in Port Huron. That meeting is coming up in, 2.5 hours? 1.5 hours, 6 p.m. And will be open as all the commissioner meetings are. You can watch it online. It will be streamed on YouTube, and it will also be open for public comments. All of those meetings, it happens once a month, and those meetings have a comment card. You can go in, fill out the little comment card at the back and sign up your name on a sheet there, and they will call people up one by one. You have 3 minutes, but you probably only need about 30 seconds. Just get up there if you're around and say, I support the appointment of Steve Fair for the position on the Board of Community Mental Health for our county. He's a great guy, and I hope you vote for him. And you sit back down. So pretty easy, straightforward, and simple. I really am looking forward tomorrow on Good News Friday to telling you guys that he has been appointed. So we'll know that shortly. All right, Katherine Albrecht here, and if you're just now joining us, I also sit on the board of directors for St. Clair County Community Mental Health, and so I know what I'm talking about. I'm pretty familiar with it. I've been on there for a year. There are many people, or a number of people on there who have been there for over 10 years on the board, but it is an important position. It is the number one top expenditure of all the county offices in our county. $150 million for just our county alone. Shocking amount of money that goes into public mental health. And speaking of public mental health, what is the reason? Why are we seeing so many problems in mental health? Well, talking about technology, talking about AI, talking about all of these different topics that we're talking about. What was the story? It just came out. Hang on. That this is like old news, not new news, but this particular story is new. That here we go. Heavy social media use contributes to declining mental health. No, not surprising. Here, I'll share this with you. Let me give you a little window here. There you go. No, that's the World Happiness Report. That is not the one that I want. This is the Drudge Report. Heavy social media use. No. What the World Happiness Reports reveals about social media in the world's happiest country. For the, however manyth year in a row, Finland has emerged as the happiest country on earth, along with other Scandinavian countries, which is really interesting because they're the places where for half the year, like, you almost don't even see the sun. They are really far north and don't have a lot of vitamin D. They don't have a lot of sunshine, and yet they're happy. And this, every year, and I've done some shows on this, I don't know, years ago, decades ago, I did shows on the happiness report. The happiness of people boils down to one simple thing: not sunlight, not wealth, although that does play a role. Being rich doesn't make you happy, but being incredibly poor makes you unhappy. It has to do with relationships. Plain and simple. Number one, social relationships are what determine happiness or not. I was talking a couple days ago about the children of celebrities and their abject misery. Has nothing to do with living in sunshine. They're all in Southern California, where it's sunny and bright and beautiful. Has nothing to do with their incredible wealth. It has everything to do with their family situations, their social relationships. And one of the things that Scandinavian countries are extraordinarily good at is creating social systems that support people. This picture here, let me get you over here. This particular picture is people in a sauna. Leave your phone in the locker, get inside a wood-paneled room with your friends, throw some water on heated rocks and relax. This is the recipe of happiness for Finnish people, who have topped the list of the happiest countries in the world for the 9th consecutive year in a row. Yeah. And what they do, because it is so dark and so miserable in those parts of the country, is something that we really need to do more of, or do any of, here in the US. And that is provide social structures for social engagement for people after they're adults, once in adulthood. In the US, I have thought about this long and hard for many years. We have great social structures, you can call them great, I suppose, for children. There is a system that takes people and takes kids, takes young people, takes teenagers, and puts them in an environment where they're interacting with other people. It's called school, public school. Even for people who homeschool, typically that's associated with a church or a homeschooling group. So young people especially, need social groups. They need engagement. They need to be talking to other people, and society provides that structure. But once you turn 18, once you graduate from high school, all of that kind of fades away. It is challenging if you're a person in your, let's say, early 20s or even late 20s, early 30s, and you're not married, you don't have a relationship, you don't have children of your own. Where do you go to get the social engagement? Where do you go? You can find, I suppose, clubs and groups and things that you can join. Church certainly is one of the few places that people continue to have social relationships and experiences after they hit 18. But for people who are not super involved in their church, where do you go? Where do you get that connection? So in Finland, let me talk about what I would love to see in our country. Helsinki, capital of Finland. This is also on social media, so I'll tell you both. Heavy social media use contributes to a stark decline in well-being among young people. That's not surprising, because heavy social media use typically means you're not interacting with other people face to face. You are staring into a screen, and when you stare into a screen, you're not talking to people. You're not getting outside. You're not doing stuff. Even in Finland and Denmark and Sweden, all these countries that have high rates of happiness, it is miserably cold. It's freezing cold and dark outside, and yet they are still managing to have these social connections. The effects are particularly worrying in teenage girls in English-speaking countries and Western Europe, according to the World Happiness Report 2026, which came out, I guess, today. Came out today. This is brand new. Hot off the presses, the annual report published by the Wellbeing Research Center at the University of Oxford found that Finland is the happiest land in the world, and other Nordic countries, including Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, rank among the top 10. Now, you would not expect that if happiness was a feature of outdoor activity. It is freaking cold there. You would not expect this if it was a feature of sunshine and vitamin D. They're not getting any half the year. This is based entirely on social networks, and a social network that has been put together for the people in those countries that keeps them happy. It really does. It keeps them happy. It highlighted how life evaluations among under 25-year-olds in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand have dropped significantly over the past decade. Wonder why? Suggested that long hours spent scrolling through social media is a key factor in that trend. They found that the average teenager and young adult spends 2.5 hours a day on social media. That would match what I've observed among young people I know. And some people spend 6, 7, 8 hours a day scrolling social media, and they're not doing a whole lot else if that's what they're doing. All right, Costa Rica, surprisingly, has now jumped into the top 10. It's in 4th place, and it was 23rd place in 2023. That is due to well-being boosts from family bonds and other social connections. Not surprising. Let me read on here. Latin America more generally has strong family ties. Now, I've mentioned on this program before that my own daughter is an exchange student this year in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And it has been fascinating to hear her reports. Let me tell you one thing that I think is really important that those of us in America need to be aware of. She said to me, Mom, you know how in the U.S. we always have a feeling that like the other shoe is going to drop, like things are going to, things aren't going good. In the U.S., I shared this yesterday, 1/3 of Americans believe that the world will end in their lifetime, that we are living in the end times and that they themselves will not die a natural death, that the world will end before they reach the end of their lifetime. 1 in 3. So we are living in a country that has a very dark view of the present, a very dark view of the future. She said in Argentina, though, I like that. She said, I'm down here in Argentina and I'm realizing I'm really happy. And I stopped to ask myself, why am I so happy? And she said, it's because people here do not feel that the world is about to end. People here are not, the society is not torn between left and right. It is not social media heavy the way it is here. People are not spending most of their time on social media. They're spending their time out and about, going to dinner and going to the theater and going to the opera house. And she sent me some beautiful pictures of their opera house down there in Buenos Aires. And she said, in addition, it's really safe. There's not a bunch of crazy people muttering. It doesn't feel like families are broken. It's just safe and good. And yeah, well, happier. All right, I'll be right back.
Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. Casting all your care upon him, casting all your worries upon him, for he cares for you. He cares for you. He cares. He cares for you. Stay alert, watch out for your great enemy. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Stand firm against him and be strong in your faith, casting all your worries
60.
upon him. I've cared for you since you were born. Yes, I carried you before you were born. I will be your God throughout your lifetime, until your hair is white with age. I've cared for you since you were born. Yes, I carried you before you were born. I will be your God throughout your lifetime, until your hair is white with age. I made you, and I will care for you. I made you, and I will care for you.
Hey, I'm back. Katherine Albrecht here. Last 10 minutes to the show, talking about happiness. And there's a lot of things that you probably already know deep in your heart about what it is that makes for a happy life. My mom, who passed away in 2019, she had some really good advice, and I think it is true. She would always say, in order to be happy, you have to have someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And I heard that, boy, if I heard it once, I heard it 1,000 times. That was my mom's recipe for a good life. And I think it's true. Someone to love. Now, what does that mean? Someone to love. A lot, loneliness, the epidemic of loneliness in our society is one of the quickest contributors to poor health of pretty much anything else. Loneliness is, along with, I think it just goes hand in hand with discouragement. It goes hand in hand with a lack of joy. So someone to love. Now, one thing I do want to point out, my daughter pointed this out as well from Argentina. She has a wonderful walk with the Lord, and she has said, even in her loneliest times, that she always has God. I like that. We're never alone when we have God. And so I think one of the beautiful things about being a Christian is having the Holy Spirit not only out there that you can pray to, but having the Holy Spirit in here, actually walking with you, talking with you, being inside of you. That sense of being accompanied, that sense of not being alone, that sense of not being bereft and completely isolated, no matter how much the world around you feels isolating and lonely, you can always reach out to the Holy Spirit. And I think those of us who have the Holy Spirit and the fruits of the Spirit, the joy, the peace, the love, the gentleness, the goodness, the self-control, all of those beautiful things that come from, that are fruits of the Spirit, fruits of the Holy Spirit, that sense of being not alone is really important. So someone to love. Parents, love your kids. Kids, love your parents. Love your significant others. Love your community. If you don't have anyone else to love, plug into your church. Find community. Volunteer. Get involved. Someone to love doesn't necessarily mean, although it can certainly be helpful, but it doesn't necessarily mean those long one-on-one conversations gazing into each other's eyes. It can simply be having community, and that's what we're seeing in Finland. Even among the people who are single, who are widowed, who are not yet married, that sense of community, having someone to engage with, someone to be involved with, and not through a screen, not long distance, not these relationships that occur online that just are not fulfilling. Something to do. That's another one that's incredibly important. People who look forward for years and decades to their retirement and then retire, what do you find them saying? I have nothing to do. I thought it would be so great to stop doing my drudgery of a job, and here I am retired, and yet I'm miserable. I hear this often from women whose husbands retire. The husband has been working and being the breadwinner for the family for decades and decades. He finishes, finally retires, looks forward to these golden years, and yet those golden years are not so golden because he has nothing to do. So those of you in retirement space who are moving to retirement age, do not think that leisure and having nothing to do is going to equate with happiness, because it does not. In Finland, in these Nordic countries, they have classes, they have neighborhood organizations, they have culture-wide national activities that people engage in. It seems a little hokey to us here in the U.S., but it's anything but hokey. It gives people something to do. And so volunteering, having a job, having something that you're doing is essential to well-being. So someone to love, something to do, and then finally something to look forward to. And I think my mom was absolutely right that you've got to have something to give you hope, something in the future, something that's coming up, something that you're working towards. And that is life's purpose. That's meaning. Having meaning and purpose in life is incredibly important. People who retire, people who, win the lottery and have all the money in the world, people like the celebrities we were talking about, or their kids, people who inherit enormous amounts of money and have nothing to work towards and nothing to look forward to, are some of the most miserable people out there. So it is not about money. It's not about resources. You have to have enough to get by. You have to have enough that you're not constantly worried, looking over your shoulder, stressed out. But once you have that, it is essential that you have something else to look forward to. All right. Latin America, reading on, thinking about my daughter in Argentina. She's going to be coming home soon, and she doesn't really want to. Latin America more generally has strong family ties, strong social ties, a great level of social capital, as a sociologist would call it, more so than in other places. That is from Jan Emmanuel Deneuve, the Oxford economics professor who directs the Wellbeing Research Center and co-edits this report that just came out on world happiness. Yeah. Finland, other North American countries, steady ranking on top is related to a combination of wealth. All right, well, we've got plenty here. That doesn't seem to be the answer. It's equal distribution. It is true that more equal distributions of wealth lead to happier countries. When you have a whole ton of people who are billionaires at the top and everyone else is struggling to pay their rent and make ends meet, then that typically that level of economic disparity, where you get the rich and the poor, tends to make people pretty miserable. And in Northern Europe, they don't have those mega billionaires at the top and everyone else struggling at the bottom. So that's one piece. They have a welfare state that protects people from the risks of recessions. I have mixed opinions about that, because a lot of welfare states actually keep people in poverty, but they do a pretty good job with that. And a healthy life expectancy. All right, then they have a quote here from a retired guy out for a swim at a pool with cold seawater in Helsinki. Now, that is something you will not find American retirees doing, is out swimming in cold water in the winter with other people. And yet, in Finland, that's a very common occurrence. In fact, people make a point of getting out of the house frequently and interacting with other people. That's one of the parts of the recipe for happiness. Finns are very content, confident, have faith in their system, their country, and their government. By the way, they are also not religious. So it's not necessarily religion that leads to the happiness, although I would say that religion leads you to behave in ways that lead to greater happiness. We can have a further show on that, the role of religion, both in good and bad ways within society. Nations in zones of major conflict are at the lowest end, of course. Afghanistan, Sierra Leone, Malawi. Country rankings were based on answers given by people in 140 countries, 100,000 people, and let's see, where are we? Oh, let me get to this social media part, which I think is important. Respondents were asked to evaluate their lives on a scale from 1 to 10. Among under 25s in English-speaking and Western European countries, the score dropped by 1 whole point over the last decade. So they take the average, my life's a 6, my life's an 8, my life's a 2, and they average them all together, and they found that level has been steadily declining among young women. The negative correlation that they found is between well-being and extensive social media use. It does not make us happier. And this brings me all the way back to one of the chapters I'm writing in my book, all the way back to the 1990s. I've shared this with you guys. I was at Harvard. I was at the Media Center at MIT when the World Wide Web, the WWW, came out in 1993. And we thought it was going to be the answer to end all answers. Now, finally, we would have happiness. Now, finally, we would have individual fulfillment. Now, finally, we would be out from under the thumb of the corporate and government controllers, and we would be in charge of our own communications, our own social networks, our own destinies. And look where we have wound up. Look where we have wound up since then. 15-year-old girls who use social media for 5 hours or more a day have a drop in life satisfaction compared to those who use it for less than 5 hours a day. And that's reminding me, 5 hours. I think 5 hours a week was in a recent vignette that I did. Those are the little 90-second things that you hear before the show starts that are distributed to 50 radio stations around the country. In one of the vignettes, I talked about video game playing and similar findings there. Playing video games, but there was a week, 5 hours a week or less. It had no negative impact on people's well-being, but playing for more than 10 hours a week, 5 hours or more led to a drop, and 10 hours or more led to a significant drop in social, just happiness, just well-being, physical well-being, health, weight, a whole variety of different things. So staring into screens is just not good for us. It's just not good for us. All right. So, yeah, I'll see if I can get my daughter to tell me more about Argentina. It sounds pretty great. And I may fly down. I may fly down before she comes home in May and report personally on what it's like. I've never been there, but could be fun. All right, Katherine Albrecht here. I am about ready to hop in the car and race to Port Huron, Michigan for the County Commissioners meeting, and I will tell you all about it tomorrow. All right, thanks so much for listening. God bless you. Stay happy. Keep your relationships strong. That's where it's at. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for tuning in.